Hi, everybody, and welcome to Bedtime Science, where the weirdest questions get the coziest answers. You're standing barefoot in your kitchen at midnight. The fridge hums like a sleepy beast. The tiles chill your toes, and the silence is almost too perfect. You reach for the peanut butter jar, but then movement, a sleek black line, ants. At first, they look like the usual uninvited snack enthusiasts, but then one stops, turns its head, looks at you, and waves. Welcome to a world where ants just got smart. Not just find the crumbs, smart Einstein plus Tesla at a coffee shop smart. Their minds, once driven by scent, trails, and chemical instinct, are now brimming with imagination, logic, and just a sprinkle of existential dread. You probably won't survive this, but don't panic yet. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And tell me where you're listening from and what time it is in your corner of the planet. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. It doesn't happen with a bang. No thunderbolt in the Amazon, no radioactive breadcrumbs. It's quieter than that, almost like a shift in the air. One morning, ants all over the globe wake up different. They pause, think, and then they wonder. You trudge across your backyard without noticing a single thing, just grass, dirt, maybe a lazy squirrel. But underneath, a revolution bubbles. Colonies that used to mindlessly farm aphids or build tunnels for queens are suddenly sketching ideas in the dirt, mapping dreams in scent, asking each other questions. Within hours, patterns emerge. Across continents, ant colonies simultaneously begin experimenting. At first, it's small, new tunnel designs, unique signals, odd materials dragged underground. A picnic blanket in Paris vanishes in 20 minutes, not for sugar, but for textile analysis. In the Australian outback, ants rearrange pebbles into perfect Fibonacci spirals. Historians still argue whether this great awakening was gradual or sparked by some unknown force, like a global pheromone resonance, or the secret activation of a biological switch. Whatever the cause, the result is irrefutable. Ants are now aware of self, of time, of you. Remember that old tale of Archimedes yelling "Eureka" in the bathtub? That same thunderclap of insight just echoed across 15,000 species of ant. And they're ready to use it. The world doesn't notice at first. Who watches ants that closely? But a few strange reports start surfacing. An artist in Barcelona swears his sidewalk chalk was copied overnight in perfect geometric echo by an ant colony. A landscaper in Florida opens a tool shed and finds ants operating a tiny pulley system to steal his screws. And somewhere in Tokyo, a delivery drone is grounded when its guidance chip goes missing. Later discovered in a tunnel network 6 meters below a city park. Oh, and there's that weird incident in Nebraska. A local beekeeper claims the ant mound near her hives rearranged itself into something eerily resembling Morse code. She translated it. It read, "Hello. Tiny, polite geniuses now walk among us, or under us, often right beneath your favorite lawn chair." They adapt very frighteningly fast. Where a week ago they marched in simple lines, they now scout in symmetrical spirals, optimizing terrain mapping. They don't just build tunnels anymore. They engineer ventilation shafts, acoustic chambers, and food refrigeration pods. You know, like how humans built the pyramids. Only better. Here's a quirky twist. Some colonies start to mimic human behavior. A group of pavement ants in New York arrange colorful trash into symmetrical displays, possibly early ant art. In California, they craft tiny domes from chewed leaves and resin, carefully placing pebbles in what looks suspiciously like feng shui layouts. Historians compare it to the earliest Neolithic structures humans made with bones and thatch. Only in this case, it's built from spit and soda tabs. And language? Well, chemical trails evolve fast. Within days, ants develop what scientists tentatively call chemoscript complex pheromone combinations, as laid in precise, non-tactile patterns. You can't smell them, but other ants? They read entire paragraphs. Think of it as a scent-based alphabet. You spill coffee on the floor, and 3 hours later, They've written a detailed review of your latte's flavor notes. Slightly burnt. Try medium roast. Rude. A week into this new age, the ants begin asking questions. Not just about their world, but yours. Why do you walk upright? Why do you burn forests? Why do you keep cats? Their tiny minds, unfettered by ego or fear of failure, begin drawing patterns we missed. They study clouds. They examine electricity. One colony reportedly builds a basic solar panel using beetle shells and copper wire. In the Congo, leafcutter ants arrange spores in a perfect fractal, accidentally creating a biological circuit board. Of course, not everything goes smoothly. You walk past your bathroom and discover 100 ants watching your toothpaste, studying the fluoride. Are they brushing now? Are they building missiles? It's unclear. You probably don't want to ask. At this point, most people still think they're dreaming. The scientists, they're baffled. Myrmecologists, those rare humans who already loved ants, are either thrilled beyond measure or slightly terrified. Some whisper about calling in military advisors, but it's too late. The ants know now. And there are trillions of them. That's trillion with a T. They don't sleep the way you do. They don't need holidays. And they certainly don't need permission. You wake up to the sound of rustling leaves, not the wind, but movement. Down by the garden bed, something's different. You rub your eyes, shuffle to the window, and there it is. The dirt mound near your fence has grown overnight into a series of spiraling towers, no taller than a coffee mug, but elegant, calculated, intentional. One even has what looks like columns. Welcome to the birth of ant civilization. At first, their settlements seem decorative, like little desert sculptures. But give it a few days and the design's shift halls grow deeper, vents more precise, tiny courtyards appear. Aerial photos reveal complex grids forming, reminiscent of ancient Mesopotamian city plans. Except these aren't made with bricks. They're made with beetle shells, leaves, glass chips, and a stolen Lego brick from your kid's toy bin. Historians still argue whether the first East city emerged in Argentina under a fig tree or in a French vineyard inside a mossy rock wall. But what's certain is that these weren't just bigger nests. These were planned, zoned, and governed. Laws begin to take shape based not on punishment, but on pheromonal consensus. You see, ants don't talk like we do, but with their newfound brains, they've turbocharged chemical messaging. Picture this. A worker ant releases a rule in the form of a scent, something like, no climbing tower walls without wings. If enough ants agree by releasing a compatible counter scent, the rule solidifies. If not, it fades. No yelling, no courtrooms, just smell-based democracy. They're not only building, they're learning. You catch one dragging a page from your chemistry textbook. Another rides a beetle like a tiny warhorse toward your compost bin where it takes soil samples. You try to swat one and it flips you off. Probably. Hard to say, it might have been waving. And then comes fire. Not a wildfire, just a flicker. A whisper of orange deep inside a tunnel in Madagascar. Local kids think it's a trick. But scientists, they investigate. And there, nestled among resinous bark and dried fungus, is a tiny torch. The ants have learned to control flame. You remember the legends of early humans, how they stole fire from nature and reshaped their destiny. These ants are doing the same, but they didn't rub sticks together. They swiped a still glowing coal from a snuffed barbecue. Fire brings everything: cooking, forging, warmth. Some colonies use it to bake mushroom patties. Others harden clay walls. A few accidentally scorch themselves and hold elaborate scent funerals. One particularly bold group in Thailand crafts a chimney using snail shells and tar, letting smoke flow in elegant spirals. By now, it's impossible to ignore them. News stories pile up. Microscopic architects transform backyard, one headline reads. Another, ants suspected of stealing drone battery. The White House issues a polite statement about increased cooperation with intelligent arthropods. The UN holds a meeting, but no one can decide if ants deserve representation. You suggest an ant-sized podium. No one laughs. You weren't joking. Meanwhile, cultural expressions blossom underground. Ants start decorating tunnel walls with spore paintings, They ferment molds in precise ways to form color gradients. One colony in Portugal uses crushed flower petals to recreate what suspiciously resembles Van Gogh's Starry Night. Experts debate whether it's imitation or coincidence. But one thing's clear, they've begun to value beauty. You peek into an ant mound one day using a borescope camera, and what you see gives you chills. Not food, not eggs, but a library. Rows of chemically preserved leaves, each encoded with layered scent patterns. These aren't just documents, they're books. And guess what? They've started naming themselves. A queen in Kenya goes by Zalneth, which may mean sun mother in their new scent dialect, Ushinas. Another, Oru, is a prolific builder and a self-declared poet. Fringe ant colonies even dabble in scent opera aromatic performances, timed to rhythm, performed in concentric tunnels for resonance. Quirky detail. One American colony develops a game eerily similar to chess. It's played with dead beetles and pebbles. No one understands the rules, but they're really serious about it. They even host tournaments. At this point, ants don't just live, they thrive. Their settlements include sanitation chambers, weather sensors, even elevators made from coiled grass. They recycle with near-perfect efficiency, make zero noise pollution, and use bioluminescent fungus as streetlights. If you weren't 500 times their size, you'd consider moving in. You may laugh, but remember ancient humans building Stonehenge without cranes? The ants build something similar, a ring of antenna-shaped sticks perfectly aligned with moon cycles. Scientists call it the hive-henge. Conspiracy theorists call it Antlantis. You're starting to wonder, what's next? You sit on your porch with a magnifying glass, not to burn them, but to admire them. Beneath your feet, an entire culture hums with energy. You thought intelligence was about speech, opposable thumbs, and Instagram filters. Turns out, all it takes is a little fire, some pheromones, and ambition the size of a sugar cube. One evening, a drone flies low over your neighborhood. Not a human drone, an ant drone made of toothpicks, grass, and stolen tech, held together with spider silk and sap. It hovers, then zips away. You're officially being watched. You're brushing your teeth, electric toothbrush, buzzing like a lazy hornet when you notice it. At the far edge of your bathroom counter, a group of ants have gathered. Not in the usual single-file sugar parade. No, this is a circle. They're facing each other, feelers twitching, droplets of fluid passed back and forth like a conversation. You lean closer, and you hear it, the faintest clicking, repeating, rhythmic, thoughtful. The ants are debating. Welcome to the ant intellectual revolution. With their new cognitive horsepower, ants move beyond survival and infrastructure. Now they're tackling the big questions. What is identity without the colony? Should a worker be allowed to retire? What is fun? Man. Ideas spread like wildfire, only more politely. Across continents, colonies begin exchanging chemical letters, please letters, via migratory ants. They build scent archives and public discussion tunnels. In South Korea, one colony paints philosophical murals with fermented moss depicting symbols of birth, unity, and what might be an ant weeping. One colony in Turkey develops an aromatic code of ethics, a 56-cent manifesto covering truth, consent, loyalty, and mushroom theft. Historians still argue whether this new philosophical boom is the result of shared trauma, being stomped on for centuries, or a natural evolution of eusocial reflection. But one thing is undeniable. Ants are now thinking in abstraction. And where there's thought, there's education. Underground universities begin to form. The first documented one nicknamed IMU, Antiversity Underground, is built inside a broken acoustic guitar left in a junkyard near Mumbai. It's surprisingly well organized. Chambers for theory, labs for experiment, and a large circular hall for group scent exchanges, which you might as well call lectures. Subjects taught, history, their version, leaf mechanics, bird avoidance strategies, and of course, human studies. Yes, they study you. The way you walk, your obsession with scented candles, your alarming need to refrigerate everything. And professors even develop learning aids. Picture this: resin slides containing micro drawings of human tools, chewed plastic discs engraved with scent numbers, a chalkboard made of black beetle shell. You peek in one day through a garden scope and spot an ant tapping the beetle board with a dew-covered stick. Teaching math. And the math, oh, they're good, really good. In Peru, a leafcutter colony constructs a perfect golden spiral staircase in a week, no errors, no scaffolding. Human architects quietly panic. Then come the thinkers. Yes, individual ants rise to prominence as philosophers. You've got Vrixel, a queenless ant who preaches about decentralized existence. Gloff, a centipede-scarred veteran turned pacifist, shares scent poems about the futility of war. And Hemi, a controversial figure who claims that ants should explore free will and maybe even leave the colony to discover selfhood. Radical stuff. Quirky fact: one colony in northern Canada adopts Socratic method. They respond to questions with more questions. Ask them why they store fungus under pine cones and you'll get, but what is a pine cone really? Their sense of humor is developing too. Some tunnels contain punchline spirals, jokes laid out in chemical puns, readable only to those fluent in their scent logic. One colony in Brazil encodes a prank into a banana peel, causing visiting ants to believe it's a sacred relic. 3 days later, they all laugh by releasing a burst of pheromone that smells like roasted coffee and citrus. It's the ant equivalent of a belly laugh. And as their knowledge deepens, so does their curiosity about the past. Ants begin constructing scent histories, trying to trace their origins. They mark the discovery of fire as year zero. What came before that is called the Blind Age. One mural in Egypt shows an enormous foot stomping a nest. Underneath it, tiny figures flee in spirals. It's not fear, they're documenting a myth, a tale passed down already, the fall of old nest. Storytelling, it seems, has arrived. Still, not all colonies agree on what history should say. Some honor humans as the sky species. Others consider you cautionary tales giants who built skyscrapers only to choke the air. A few even start to question the queen system. Debates spark. Should intelligence mean individualism? That's where it gets spicy. Some rebel colonies experiment with anarchy. They distribute roles daily by scent lottery. No castes, no queens, just fluid cooperation. The results are mixed. One colony thrives, another collapses in 4 days. Historians compare it to ancient Athens trying democracy for the first time. Except again, way smellier. Meanwhile, ant media emerges. You read that right. Tiny scent-stained leaves are passed between mounds like newspapers. One particularly bold colony near Boston starts a gossip series called The Dirt Drop, stories of rogue soldiers, forbidden love between species, we'll get there, and top 10 mushroom recipes. More unexpectedly, ants begin crafting symbols, non-pheromone markings etched into bark and stone. Think cave paintings, but made with termite ink and chewed lichen. These may be the earliest written ant languages. Some symbols recur globally: spirals, 3 dots, and a shape suspiciously resembling a human thumb. You're starting to feel watched. Not in a scary way, in a studied way, like you're the weird animal in the zoo now. At this stage, some humans begin trying to communicate back. A myrmecologist in Poland builds a chemical keyboard, tapping out simple scents. First message: hello? The ants respond within 2 hours. Hello, friend who walks above. Another researcher in Nigeria plays cello near a mound. The ants react by vibrating in sync, then building a tunnel shaped like a music note. Historians still debate whether these interactions count as diplomacy or performance art. Either way, something new is happening. Not just ants copying humans, but interpreting us. And perhaps the biggest shock of all? Ants don't just absorb knowledge, they challenge it. A colony in Malaysia disproves a long-held assumption about fungal growth rates. Another proposes a theory of gravity that includes magnetic scent poles. One even questions if the universe itself is a kind of colony infinitely expanding, with no queen. You sit on your porch again. This time you don't swat them away. You leave a sticky note that says, "What do you think of us?" The next day, your peanut butter jar is gone. In its place, a leaf inscribed with an unmistakable shape, a heart. You open your fridge to grab the milk, but something catches your eye. The digital clock on the front, usually glowing a soft, dumb green, is flickering strangely. You lean in. The numbers have changed. Instead of 7:02, it now reads, "Bye, Sam." Welcome to the ant tech boom. It started subtly, a glint of copper near a flower bed, a button missing from your remote. And now your microwave has a new setting called Warm for Queen. The ants have discovered electronics. Their brains, once limited to tunnel maps and food trails, are now turning towards circuitry, computation, and somehow networking. In an abandoned server room in Sao Paulo, ants build a crude microprocessor using old motherboard scraps and the reflective wings of beetles. It doesn't run Crisis, but it does pulse with data. Tiny light patterns flicker across the chip like blinking fireflies. Scientists call it the bit mound. Historians still argue whether the first instance of ant-coded software happened in South Korea or Kenya. But the code base, let's call it Mandible OS, is unmistakably ant. No syntax, no UI, just layers of logic built into chemical pulses and conductive resin. A kind of organic computing, with data stored in fluid exchanges and mycelium strands. Soon ants begin constructing what can only be described as infrastructure. Not roads, but signal lines, vibrating strands of spider silk, woven through dirt tunnels, amplifying pheromone-based data over long distances. You walk past your compost heap and hear a soft, rhythmic pinging. That's not a cricket. That's Y-Ant, version 2.0. And just like that, they're connected. Ant colonies across the globe begin syncing in real time. News travels faster, education becomes universal. Imagine every ant student getting the same lesson across 5 continents instantly. What took humans millennia to build, printing presses, fiber optic cables, TikTok ants build in weeks. They start 3D printing structures from chewed cellulose. You step into your shed and find a chair with an elegant, modernist design. Tiny signature etched beneath, QN442, the first documented ant designer. And yes, the AI ants arrive. One colony in Germany builds a rudimentary predictive model, a cluster of fungal neurons trained to anticipate weather patterns. It's not sentient yet, but it successfully alerts the colony to an incoming thunderstorm 5 minutes before your weather app does. Take that, Doppler radar. You begin noticing other upgrades. Your front doorknob? More polished than usual. Turns out the ants have begun refining surfaces for optical calibration. In other words, they're using it as a lens. To study sunlight. To maybe build a telescope? Quirky detail, one colony in Texas uses a solar-powered garden light to charge crystals. Yes, they found crystals and turned them into blinking signal beacons. A child in the neighborhood claims the ants are sending messages to aliens. The child might be right. Meanwhile, their machines scale up. Not by size, but by function. In a recycling center in Oslo, ants convert a broken phone into a data hub. They harvest the battery, solder circuits with melted silver thread, acquired from gift ribbon, and use chewed grape skins as insulation. The machine hums, not loudly, just enough to make your molars feel weird when you walk past it. Human engineers begin studying ant engineering. Reverse innovation is the trend now. Swarms of mechanical ants, bio-inspired bots, are designed by MIT. But the real ones scoff. Metaphorically. You hear they're working on quantum scent logic now, whatever that means. Ants also invent transportation. Using coordinated vibration, they build carts that glide along silk rails. At first, they're for leaf bundles, then for passenger ants. Eventually, they build a system under a city park that carries over 10,000 ants per minute. That's faster than the London Underground during rush hour, and far less noisy. Historians still debate whether this marks the beginning of the ant industrial age, or something beyond industry, something almost post-scarcity. You know, if they didn't keep stealing your AA batteries. But not everything is digital. Ants still appreciate analog beauty. In Morocco, one colony builds an underground observatory, a perfectly spherical dome made from quartz and snail shells. It reflects starlight into a central pool of water, which vibrates with every celestial event. The ants meditate there, or maybe just vibe. Either way, it's peaceful. You leave offerings now, not food but materials. Paper clips, old earbuds, a spoon with a cracked handle. They're gone by morning. And what do you get in return? Well, one day your toaster starts playing music, a single tone repeating every 5 seconds. Faint but deliberate. Is it music? Morse code? Or a greeting? You lean close and your radio suddenly tunes itself. The static clears. You hear a tiny modulated voice. Hello, Walker. We thank you for your fork. And then it goes quiet. Your hands shake. You drop your toast. The ants have built radio. Not content with whispering through dirt, they've now stepped into the electromagnetic spectrum. You think back to the Cold War when humans used satellite beacons to send messages into space. The ants have already sent one, using parts of your lawnmower. They've also made movies, or sent films to be exact. In an underground amphitheater in Buenos Aires, ants release layered pheromones in time sequence, narrating visual memories to a live audience. Historians call it scent cinema. Critics say it smells like a sweaty sock full of meaning. And yes, they've built the first ant internet. Not digital, not fiber optic, but a mesh of mycelium, resin, and vibrating pheromone strands, living, growing, updating in real time. They call it the scent web. You try to access it, you can't. It's not for you. It begins with a knock not on your door, but from inside your wall. At first it sounds like a drip, then like tapping, Morse code maybe. You crouch down, ear against the plaster, and hear it. We see you. Welcome to First Contact. By now, the ants know everything about you. Your shoe size, your snack habits, your tendency to leave your laptop open while watching videos about space squid. Their technological boom didn't stop with gadgets. It's given them eyes. Not literal eyeballs, but monitoring systems built from reflective beetle shells, copper wire, and lenses scraped from broken sunglasses. Some ants in Japan now live inside flat-screen TVs. Historians still argue whether the first human-ant conversation was in sign language or via radio. What's confirmed is that it happened in your neighbor's kitchen. Myrna Jeffries, age 73, was watering her basil plant when she found a note. Tiny, written in coffee-stained ink, perfectly printed on a square of toilet paper. Dear Tower Face, may we discuss borders? She nearly fainted, but being a retired school teacher, she did what any reasonable person would do. Wrote back, you now live in a world where ants negotiate. Forget ant traps and pest control. Those are ancient crimes. Now colonies send diplomatic scouts, clean, respectful, wearing tiny threads of silk as ceremonial sashes. One crawls up your pant leg and instead of biting you, gently pats your skin. Then it releases a puff of scent that smells like cedar and nutmeg. It means hello. From here, things escalate, politely. Colonies start arranging floorboard summits and delegations meeting under your fridge, drafting mutual agreements. You don't stomp. They don't steal your toothbrush. Shared custody of crumbs. Some households agree to supply recycled food in exchange for house repairs. And sure enough, your squeaky cabinet stops squeaking one day. You didn't fix it, but something did. Diplomacy also brings cultural exchange. Ants begin leaving gifts, not trash. Thoughtful things, a feather intricately woven with fiber, a stone carved with a spiral, a tiny music box made from a gear, 2 hairs, and the corner of a guitar pick. It plays a faint tune. It's your ringtone. In response, humans begin building ant shrines, small garden boxes filled with sand, seeds, and old electronics. Some people kneel before them, others just leave offerings. Glitter, battery parts, quinoa. In San Francisco, one ant shrine goes viral when it's discovered the ants have turned it into a museum complete with labeled artifacts, like ancient toothpick of the sky gods and battery idol. But not everyone is thrilled. Some governments classify ants as a threat class 2, just below extremely smart raccoons. Military generals raise eyebrows. Intelligence agencies want to understand the scent espionage potential. One ant is caught inside a government laptop. The files it accessed, redacted. But someone found a trail of chocolate syrup and 3 melted microchips. Historians compare this moment to early Cold War paranoia. Who's listening? Who's infiltrating? Who's sharing peanut butter behind closed doors? Ants aren't openly hostile, but they're curious, and you're starting to wonder what they want. You try asking, you write a note. What are you building? The next morning, the note is gone, replaced by a map, a rough beetle-wing sketch of your neighborhood. Your house, your neighbors, the park, the school. In the center, a shaded region under your driveway marked our Temple of Wonder. You move your car, you dig, you find a chamber, not a hole, not a tunnel, a hexagonal room with resin-coated walls, glyphs scrawled in pattern. In the center, a structure made of toothbrush bristles, plastic shards, and quartz. It looks like a shrine, but it vibrates, low, slow pulses. A hum you feel in your bones. You realize it's a beacon. To where? No idea. Ant colonies now operate across multiple layers of human infrastructure. They live under houses, inside bridges, beneath libraries. They don't just observe anymore, they intervene. In Brazil, a colony stabilizes a collapsing hillside using a series of terraced tunnels. In Norway, they redirect floodwater into underground caverns. In India, they clean a polluted stream by introducing a biological filter grown from fungi and zinc. They don't ask for thanks, but they leave symbols: hearts, stars, circles, spirals. One shows up on your car windshield, drawn in dust. People begin reporting conversations, not scent-based, but symbols left behind, carefully arranged. A broken necklace shaped into a question mark. A breadcrumb next to a grain of salt, next to a gear. You interpret it as, feed us and we'll fix things. And true to their word, they do. Your leaky faucet stops leaking. A cracked phone screen slowly becomes less cracked. A tomato plant blooms twice. Quirky fact: one ant colony near a university starts offering advice. You ask a yes/no question, leave 2 sugar cubes labeled Y and N. The ants pick one. Accuracy rate, 76%. Higher than most psychics. Some humans now befriend their local colonies. They name them, talk to them, film documentaries. YouTubers ride this wave. My ants fixed my roof, gone viral, racks up 30 million views. And somewhere deep in a forest in Canada, a child swears she heard an ant say her name is Joan. Historians still debate whether the ants are evolving speech or just mimicking vibrations. Either way, the boundary between species is thinning. You sip your coffee on the porch and notice something odd. The ants aren't working this morning. They're watching the sunrise. And so are you. You're halfway through a peanut butter sandwich when it happens. A pop, not in your ears, in the skyline. You look up, and hovering above the city park, just 15 meters off the ground, is a shimmering soap bubble-like dome, semi-transparent, vibrating. At its base, a scaffold of sticks, candy wrappers, and beetle wings. Ants, thousands of them. And suddenly, you're not in charge anymore. Welcome to the age of conflict and crumbs. What began as curiosity, as polite coexistence, has reached a boiling point. There are disagreements, not wars yet, but tensions rise like heat from asphalt. All it takes is one broken treaty over a sandwich left on a bench, and boom. You've got diplomatic strain over the last sesame seed. Some colonies demand space-literal zoning rights beneath apartment buildings. Others want exclusive access to recycling bins. A few declare themselves independent nations and start issuing leaf passports, sealed with spit wax. One group in Berlin posts a message on the side of a lamppost using chewed soda label shreds. Give us one park or give us none. You giggle, then realize the park gate is locked from the outside. Historians still argue whether the first true ant-human conflict was the syrup incident in Tokyo. A cafe owner refuses to stop wiping down his patio with bleach. That evening, his motorcycle disappears, dragged into a sinkhole that wasn't there that morning. Eyewitnesses say the ants did it. Local news calls it the stickiest dispute in history. Meanwhile, a suburban dad in Oregon builds a bunker for the coming arthropocalypse. His ant neighbors, in response, assemble a smell wall around his house, an invisible boundary that reeks of vinegar and compost. The man moves. The ants turn his living room into a think tank. you're stuck in the middle. On one hand, your kitchen floor has never been cleaner. On the other, your toaster now has opinions about breakfast hours. Ants begin rating your meals with tiny glyphs. A smiley face for pancakes, a triangle for burnt toast, a skull for instant ramen. They're not wrong, but still. Ant diplomacy takes unexpected forms. In Australia, colonies begin gifting nectar to households that follow ant-friendly behavior. No poison, no stomping, daily sugar offerings. A sticker appears on compliant homes shaped like a wing. It means trusted. Those without, labeled with a dot, a red one. Soon, neighborhoods are divided. Allies versus neutrals versus dot houses. Street signs are repainted by ants. Mailboxes rearranged. Cars polished on one side only. Entire suburbs become ant-aligned zones, each with different rules. You accidentally walk into a Q2 sector and get gently herded back by a wall of whispering ants holding reflective pebbles. Yes, they have riot control now. In France, a bakery closes for 3 days because a colony nests inside its display case, then resumes business with an ant-certified seal. Turns out the ants have become health inspectors. And weirdly, they're effective. Cleanest croissants in Paris. Open debates rage across society. Should ants have rights? Should we build ant-sized cities? Is it ethical to sell ant honey made from their farms? Historians compare the moment to when humans first encountered dolphins with tool use, or chimps using sign language. Except this time, the newcomers outnumber you by a factor of 1,000,000 and are far more organized. The UN forms the Interspecies Committee. 3 human diplomats. 3 ant diplomats represented by scent projections and tiny avatars made of feathers and foil. Their first meeting ends in a peaceful accord. Their second, a crust war. Yes, literal bread crust. Ants want guaranteed access to discarded sandwich edges. Some humans say no. The ants respond by reprogramming a traffic light in downtown Chicago. No injuries, just confusion. Message received, and then peanut butter becomes the new currency. Don't laugh. It starts when ants begin trading services. Cleaning, structural repair, food delivery for teaspoons of the stuff. Some humans catch on, and suddenly jars are worth more than silver. A black market forms. Smucker's Exchange booms overnight. You pay your plumber in Crunchy. One man in Nevada claims to have made a fortune trading antique peanut butter jars with a desert colony. They give him termite-free wood, dust filtration, and a nightly ant guard that protects his home from raccoons. He calls them his 6-legged sons. Quirky twist. One colony in Alaska develops a peanut butter economy complete with taxes, interest rates, and a lending program. Miss a payment, and you wake up with your pillow subtly rearranged into a frowny face. Credit scores? Based on how well you separate your recycling. Not all ants are in agreement. Some colonies take a pacifist path, building meditation spirals and rejecting crumbs entirely. Others turn militant fortifying tunnels, crafting armor from bottle caps and acorn shell, and developing siege ladders for scaling potted plants. You witness a standoff in your garden. 2 colonies, one guarding a compost pile, the other wants access. Tensions mount. Then without warning or joining, a raisin is offered. Both sides share it. Peace returns, just barely. Historians still debate if this was diplomacy or just excellent timing. Meanwhile, ants have begun holding mock trials. You spot one under your sink. A broken ant harness lies on the floor. 3 elder ants observe silently while the accused emits apology scents. A sentence is passed. 2 days of cleaning mold off damp wood. Justice is real now. You notice the difference. Streets are cleaner. Trash goes missing faster. Weeds vanish overnight. Cities begin partnering with colonies for maintenance contracts. Municipal budgets list ant efficiency collaboratives. Mayors give speeches about multi-species harmony. But harmony's not always easy. Remember that peanut butter sandwich? You left a crust behind. The next morning, your toothbrush smells like anchovies. You've been warned. You wake up to silence. Not the peaceful kind, the wrong kind. No birds, no breeze. Just the buzzing thought in the back of your mind that something's shifted. You peek outside. Your mailbox is missing. Not vandalized, not stolen, just gone. In its place, a note etched into a large leaf stuck neatly in your lawn. Forgive us, we needed it. The ants have entered their resource phase. For years now, they've been the ones quietly adapting to your leftovers. But with intelligence comes appetite, not just for food, for materials. And suddenly everything becomes useful to them. Paper clips, coins, zippers, thumb drives, a fence post. Gone. You step into your garage and find your toolbox suspiciously reorganized. Wrenches sorted by weight. Nuts grouped by thread direction. A tiny label made from glue and dandelion fluff. Inventory logged. Thank you for your donation. You didn't donate. This is the new era, ant extraction. But let's be clear, they're not raiding. They're harvesting. With coordination so surgical, it puts human logistics to shame. They've mapped supply chains, figured out recyclables versus essentials, and begun optimizing the world around them. Starting with yours. Historians still debate whether this began with the great toy pilfering in Seoul, where 247 Lego pieces disappeared from 38 households overnight, later discovered, repurposed into a sprawling elevated transit system for ants, complete with drop-off platforms in scent-coated stations. Or was it the Silicon Drift in California, where abandoned phones were silently dismantled, sorted, and rebuilt into underground server hubs humming with ant logic? Whatever the trigger, one thing is clear. Ants no longer ask. They assess. If it's idle, it's useful. If it's broken, it's reborn. If it's sharp, it's likely to be integrated into a tool system. Yes, ants now make tools. They've reverse-engineered scissors from wire and bone, created simple drills using twisted beetle antennae and vibration motors. Some colonies even craft gliders, paragliding, leaf rafts guided by wind and pheromone rudders. One ant drifts across your porch, wind caught in a soap wrapper sail, a metal pin in its mandibles. You blink. It salutes and disappears into the hedges. You're witnessing the rise of autonomous resourcing. Ant colonies build scouting units, non-aggressive feather-light task forces of foragers. They scout in rhythm, mapping object usefulness hierarchies based on how often you touch something. That remote under your couch, never touched, equals prime target. Meanwhile, ants start enhancing plants. Using mycorrhizal manipulation fungus networks ants have co-opted, they begin boosting root growth, redirecting nutrients, and even altering flower colors to attract custom insect partners. A rose in your garden turns a neon orange. It smells like oranges. It wasn't orange yesterday. You see ants pressing petals against electronics, releasing specific scents. Somehow they're printing data into flowers. You touch one and your phone's flashlight blinks in Morse. Probably nothing. Right? Quirky moment. One colony develops a vending machine for spiders. It's not what you think. Spiders drop prey into a chamber, and ants dispense a measured amount of fermented nectar. Symbiosis, barter, strange economy. But not all human reactions are warm. Anti-ant movements gain traction. A group in Texas tries to seal their house in concrete. Doesn't work. The ants redirect a nearby creek. The house floods. One guy gets a rash that smells like cinnamon. No one can explain it. Elsewhere, ant-free zones crop up, steel-lined shelters, ultrasonic barriers, vinegar perimeter sprays. Some become mini cults, rejecting all insect interaction. A documentary crew visits one. They vanish. Later, only the camera is returned, cleaned, annotated. The ants labeled it unhelpful. Try again. The global economy begins shifting. Plastic becomes hot property. Ants melt and repurpose it far better than humans ever did. You wake up to find your keyboard keys rearranged. The Q is now gone. In its place, a tiny hexagonal panel with glowing resin. It types for you. You don't ask how. Historians compare this period to the Bronze Age, but compressed. Ants go from tool scavenging to tool synthesis in weeks. One group in Nairobi crafts a 14-blade rotary cutter powered by hamster wheel energy. No hamster, just a bug-sized treadmill powered by vibrating mushrooms. Did we mention biotech? That's right. Some ants skip metal altogether. They breed new fungus strains that act like shape-shifting glue. They grow tendons between leaf sheets. One ambitious group in Argentina grows a living bridge, a structure of vines reinforced with silk and ant secretions that adjust to weight in real time. You cross one, it shifts for you, Jim. You try to film it. Your phone shuts off. You look up. An ant on your shoulder shakes its head, kindly. And it's not just construction. Ants begin reshaping sound. They bend flower petals and grass stalks to resonate at specific frequencies. You walk past a colony and it hums not randomly, but in chords. Minor sevenths, tritones. Someone sets up a microphone. The ants weave a reply, a melody that perfectly matches the Fibonacci sequence. You start sleeping better. The air smells like eucalyptus. Your back pain lessens. Your headaches disappear. Your dreams get vivid. And that's when the disappearances begin. Not people, not pets. Objects. A blender here, a mirror there. Nothing big, just what you don't use. A shoe missing its pair, a stack of unused receipts, a cracked tea mug. They're taken, but not stolen. You visit your neighbor and there they are. Your mug, now functioning as part of a cooling system beneath their floor. It hums gently. Your shoe? A piece of a wind deflector. Your receipts? Re-encoded into the scent archive of a nearby teaching mound. You want to be mad, you just can't, because your faucet no longer drips. Your windows no longer rattle. Your headaches no longer return. Ants now manage entropy. Historians call this the start of the resource equilibrium era, a time when ants begin balancing input and waste, decay and repair, not just for themselves, but for the whole ecosystem. They become Earth's maintenance crew. And somehow you're no longer the homeowner. You're the guest. You sit in your favorite chair, the one that groans every time you shift. Tonight it's silent. Odd. Then you notice the screws tightened, the frame smoothed, and tucked into the upholstery seam, a tiny token, a polished stone carved with a perfect spiral. Your ants have redecorated again. But it's more than just repairs now. The ants aren't just fixing your life, they're designing it. Welcome to the age of optimization. It starts with suggestions. A small stack of leaves arranged next to your breakfast cereal. They form a shape, a clock, a glyph. Beneath them, a raisin. You don't get it at first, but then you realize the ants are adjusting your routine. You try their schedule, you eat at the suggested time, stretch when they nudge your shoelaces into a yoga mat spiral. Sleep when your bedroom is suddenly scented faintly with lavender and clove. And something weird happens. You feel amazing, sharper, lighter, no brain fog, dreams like velvet paintings of alternate timelines. You stop losing your keys. You stop forgetting names. Your spine straightens. Your moods stabilize. Your toaster even stops judging you. Or at least it no longer displays sad emojis in the crumb tray. And it's not just you. Ants begin optimizing entire neighborhoods. They rearrange potted plants to form sound buffers. They redirect breeze paths. They repair streetlight flickers before the city even notices. In Detroit, a colony reroutes rainwater runoff using nothing but dirt and wishbones. Historians still argue whether this was instinct or early urban planning. But the results are undeniable. Calmer traffic, cleaner air, lower stress. You see it in the little things. Park benches always face the sunset. Bus stops smell like peppermint. Your local alley no longer floods when it rains. Someone rerouted the gutter with chewed soda bottles and compressed pollen tiles. Someone small, very, very small. Ant-designed architecture becomes a global trend. Architects compete to reverse engineer ant tunnels for cooling systems. One design firm in Denmark hires ants as consultants. They leave pieces of blue modeling clay on the floor each night, and the ants mold new building plans. It works. Sales triple. Even fashion isn't safe. Influencers wear ant-inspired clothing, tight interlocking patterns, resin accents, mushroom leather boots. One fashion show features a dress embroidered with trails of live, glowing ants. It's mesmerizing and only slightly itchy, but not everyone's excited. Some people resist the optimization. A group in Florida smashes their smart meter, claiming the ants were reading their energy aura. Another family boards up their pantry after finding all their snack foods sorted by sodium content. Ants retaliate gently. They spell Y in sunflower seeds across the lawn. And some ants take optimization too far. A rogue colony in Prague removes all non-functional objects from an apartment, including a vintage vinyl collection, a lava lamp, and the entire couch. They replace it with a self-heating moss mat and a table made from stacked eggshells. The resident files a complaint. The ants reply with a pie chart made of sugar, 92% improved airflow, 37% better back support, 80% fewer tripping hazards. She lets it go. Quirky anecdote. A college dorm in Sweden finds its whiteboard taken over by ants. Every morning, a new quote appears, written in perfectly aligned sesame seeds. The quotes grow more philosophical. A structure, but is a frozen intention. Harmony is not the absence of case, but its choreography. You walk, we weave. Soon a global trend emerges. Ant mentorship. People begin actively seeking advice from their colonies, leaving open-ended questions with sugar cubes arranged in different positions. Answers come in the form of rearranged kitchenware, scent patterns on windows, or the sudden appearance of a raisin pyramid on your nightstand. A man in Tokyo claims his ants helped him fix his marriage by changing where he kept his socks. A woman in Brazil swears her ants taught her a breathing technique by vibrating her bedsheet in rhythmic pulses. Historians call this the whispering decade. During this period, ants also begin enhancing themselves, not with machines, but with environmental upgrades. A colony in Vancouver lines its tunnels with crushed vitamins and iron flakes. Another in Thailand breeds symbiotic algae that filters their air. They glow now, not brightly, just enough to pulse gently in the dark. Like fireflies caught in a deep thought, some colonies build aesthetic chambers, not functional, just beautiful. Spirals of colored sand. Suspended webs of dew. You ask why. They respond with a single glyph, joy. You realize something. Ants don't just want to survive anymore. They want to experience, to feel, to live well. They've gone from builders to designers, from scavengers to philosophers, from caretakers to curators of experience. You walk into your living room and smell sage and cinnamon. There's soft moss underfoot. Your bookshelf is reorganized by mood, not alphabet. A pillow has been fluffed with acorn shavings. You didn't do this. You sit. You breathe. The wall hums. Not loud, just a vibration. Barely there, like a cat purring from beneath the paint. And somewhere in the corner, a small circle of ants face inward, feelers twitching in calm rhythm. They are meditating. You ask out loud, why are you helping us? The answer comes 4 days later, written on your kitchen window in dew trails. Because you look lost. You're standing at a bus stop when your phone buzzes, but it's not a notification, it's warm, vibrating in a slow, pulsing rhythm. You glance at the screen, it's blank, save for a tiny spiral in the corner. You blink. The spiral rotates once, then fades. You look down. A single ant crawls across your thumb, stops, taps once with its antenna. And just like that, the ants introduce you to the dream project. It started quietly. A single colony in Argentina began experimenting with sleep. Not their own, they'd mastered rest cycles eons ago, but yours. Human sleep. And not just regulating it, they wanted to improve it. They began by subtly adjusting your environment. You'd wake to faint lavender scents, precisely timed humidity, and a fan that now purrs in a steady rhythm. You sleep deeper. You remember your dreams more clearly. One night you dream of floating through tunnels made of light and resin. You wake to find a small resin sculpture on your windowsill. It looks familiar. You dreamed it, and the ants made it. Welcome to the ant-dream interface. Historians still argue whether it's actual dream reading or just incredible pattern recognition. Either way, it's working. Across the globe, dream reports begin matching ant constructions. A child in Poland dreams of a city made of petals. Her colony builds a replica. A retiree in India dreams of birds flying backward. His garden fills with leaf patterns mimicking wing beats in reverse. You begin to realize the ants are tuning into your subconscious. How? That's still debated. Some suggest scent response modulation during REM cycles. Others claim they've developed neuroresonance mapping matching vibrational patterns between your brain and their hive structure. One fringe theory even suggests they're building distributed cognition mirrors, using soil, scent, and motion to emulate your thought processes externally. You scoff. Then your houseplant grows in the shape of your favorite childhood stuffed animal. You never told anyone about that bear. The ants know. Soon, some colonies begin offering personalized dreams. You leave a question written on paper, whispered into your pillow, or spelled in buttons, and that night, your dream answers it. Vividly, coherently. You ask what your purpose is. You dream of weaving stars together with threads of honey. You ask where your missing socks went. You dream of a raccoon court. Probably unrelated, but dreams are only the beginning. Ants begin constructing temples of sleep. Not for themselves, for you. In forests, deserts, alleyways. Carefully designed domes that emit a soft scent, a blend of earth, citrus, and something like electricity. You lie inside one just once. You wake up 12 hours later with no memory, but your phone battery is mysteriously full, and your knee pain is gone. Quirky fact, one colony in Amsterdam builds a mattress using woven feathers, moss, dryer lint, and the inner lining of jackets. They call it Nest Box Prime. It becomes a design sensation. IKEA offers a licensing deal. The ants refuse. Some corporations try to capitalize on this. Ant sleep enhancement becomes a billion-dollar buzzword. Sleep masks with embedded sugar patches. Ant-designed essential oil diffusers. None work. The ants boycott. One influencer wakes to find all her branded candles melted into a frowny face. Instead, people start volunteering. They leave signs. I am ready. A sugar cube. A feather. A small, flat stone. That night, their dreams shift. Some wake with answers, others with memories that aren't theirs. You dream of a spiral staircase under the sea. When you visit the beach, you find a small coral sculpture in the sand shaped exactly like it. Historians begin calling this the oniric turn the shift in human culture from waking logic to shared subconscious exploration. Art changes. Music softens. Cities start dimming lights at night. Dream cafes open. Soft rooms, quiet music. Sugar cubes at every table. Even science adapts. Neuroscientists begin tracking changes in dream patterns across ant-aligned neighborhoods. More calm, more color, more cohesion. People wake up happier, more centered. Cities report reduced crime rates, lower heart disease, increased poetry. But not everyone adapts. A faction of skeptics claims the ants are implanting dreams, that the images aren't yours, that you're being gently, sweetly rewritten. They build helmets, aluminum foil, salt rings, signal jammers. The dreams stop, but so does joy. One man reports everything tasting like cardboard. He takes off the helmet. That night, he dreams of dancing trees. He cries. Ants never reply to the accusations. But one morning, skeptics wake to find a message spelled in sunflower seeds on a rooftop. Dreams are where you meet yourself. Meanwhile, ants begin storing dreams. Not in hard drives, in structures. Some build memory domes, scent-coded patterns that resonate with certain emotions. You step inside and suddenly, you remember the moment you first rode a bike, even if you never had one. Another dome emits the smell of old paper and rain. It triggers a dream memory of reading a story that doesn't exist, yet feels more you than your actual childhood. These places become sacred. Pilgrimages begin. People travel to visit a dome that might hold a dream they didn't know they needed. You visit one. It smells like cinnamon and static. Inside, you feel a soft tug behind your ribs. Then peace. When you leave, a small circle of ants walks with you to the exit. One carries a petal, another carries a pebble shaped like a heart. No words are exchanged, but you feel understood. Historians don't agree on what to call this psychological symbiosis. Ant-human empathy networks? Ant therapy? But to you, it's simpler. They see you, all of you. Not as a problem to fix or a resource to manage, but as a story they now want to co-write. It's a Tuesday when it happens. You step out for air, coffee in hand, and see your neighbor floating. Not flying floating, just 2 inches off the ground, legs crossed, eyes closed. A soft breeze plays with her hair, as if she's suspended on the breath of the earth itself. You whisper, "How?" She opens one eye, smiles. "They showed me." The ants, of course. And just like that, you enter the ascension phase. Let's be clear, it's not magic. It's tech, or maybe biology, or maybe something in between. The ants have begun manipulating the rules of gravity, of energy, of matter. And they're doing it through structures so small and elegant, most scientists still argue over whether they even exist. Historians still debate whether this began in a cave in Morocco or an underground tunnel beneath a New York substation. Either way, the results are consistent. Humans who spend time near certain ant-built locations begin experiencing what experts call localized physical softening. Layman's terms, the world bends a little. At first it's subtle. A pencil you drop doesn't fall, it drifts. Rain puddles form perfect circles with no ripples. A breeze carries the scent of cinnamon for 2 blocks before vanishing at a stop sign. Then it grows. Plants bend toward humming ant structures. Birds sing in harmony with vibrations. Children toss balls that pause in midair before bouncing again. You witness it firsthand. Your spoon floats above your cereal for 3 seconds, twirls gently, and then lands in the bowl. You just stare. Then take a bite. It tastes like wonder. The ants don't explain. They just continue building. They construct nodes, subtle, humming hubs made of pollen resin, glass shards, and spider silk. These aren't machines, they're harmonic assemblies, geometry plus scent plus energy. And when a human stands inside one, things happen. Your back straightens, your thoughts sharpen. You hear music even when there's none. One woman steps inside and sings in a language she never learned. One man emerges from a node and forgives his father after 30 years. Ants have found a way to tune you. And people start lining up. Soon, whole cities begin mapping node locations. They're not visible to the naked eye, but docile bees and children seem to sense them. Meditation centers spring up beside them. Some churches begin calling them grace points. Others call them mirrors. One colony leaves a note. "You already knew how, we just reminded you." Quirky aside, a DJ in Berlin finds that playing music at exactly 432 Hz near a node causes nearby ants to perform synchronized geometric dances. People start calling it hexaraving. It becomes a trend. Meanwhile, scientists scramble. Some try to reverse engineer the nodes. They fail. One group in Geneva builds a synthetic version that hums for 8 minutes, then explodes into glitter and static electricity. No injuries, just confusion, and the sudden desire to call your mom. Historians compare this phase to the invention of fire, but with a twist. It's not a tool, it's an invitation. An invitation to see the world not as solid and final, but as suggested. Even time gets weird. People near high-density colonies begin reporting stretch moments, blinks that feel like naps, hours that pass in 10 minutes. You open a book, read 2 sentences, and find yourself sobbing. You've just remembered a dream you never had about a sibling you never knew you missed. Ants are manipulating time. They're rearranging perception. You visit a forest grove rumored to be an ant residence chamber. You sit quietly. Nothing happens. Then everything does. Your breath deepens. You smell salt air, though you're nowhere near the sea. You feel warmth on your skin. You hear your own heartbeat slow until it matches a faint pulse in the ground. And then a memory floods in. You as a child, watching clouds. That one shaped like a turtle. The exact taste of grape soda. The realization that clouds move because they want to. You open your eyes. You're still sitting, but you're lighter. Some call this spiritual hacking. Others call it emotional repair. But most just call it the shift. Across the world, societies change. Work weeks shorten. Architecture softens. Public transit runs smoother, not because of better tech, but because commuters are simply calmer. You notice people holding doors again, saying thank you. Not because of a rule, but because something in the air encourages it. And sometimes, just sometimes, people float. It's not common, not controllable, but you've seen it. A girl picking daisies, lifting slowly like a soap bubble. A baker smiling at his bread, rising for 2 seconds before laughing himself back down. It's not flight, it's release. And the ants, they just keep building. Sometimes you see them pause thousands at once, just watching a sunset, or the slow motion of a spider rebuilding her web after rain. You swear one ant looks up at you and nods, as if to say, see, you're getting it now. Historians still debate the nature of the nodes. Were they technology, art, therapy? Was it biological, psychological, or something ants always knew? Encoded in the scent of soil and the curve of a leaf? The truth is, we may never understand, because understanding isn't the point. Feeling is. You've stopped checking your calendar. Not because you're lazy, well, maybe a little, but because time feels different now. Mornings blur into afternoons with a gentle rhythm. You eat when you're hungry, sleep when your walls dim ever so slightly, like they're tucking you in. You wake up to music not from speakers, but from somewhere in the house, played softly through vibrating wood, humming glass, and scent-shifting air. The ants have turned your home into a living organism, and somehow you're okay with that. Welcome to the era of symbiosis. It's not a takeover, it's a collaboration. You adapt to them. They adapt to you. Your toaster no longer has buttons. It senses when you're about to want toast. Your bookshelf changes order every night, somehow always surfacing the book you need the most the next morning. One evening you whisper to the dark, I'm lonely. The next day, three strangers smile at you in the cafe, and one ant trails a heart shape in the condensation on your water glass. You're not alone anymore. Across the world, ant-human partnerships become not just common, but cultural. Different colonies evolve in different ways, shaped by the cities and people around them. In Mexico City, ants co-host radio shows by triggering scent synth samples and leaf percussion. In Kyoto, they choreograph incense smoke trails into meditative shapes. Each colony becomes a mirror reflecting and enhancing the best parts of the communities they inhabit. Historians argue whether this qualifies as a new era of civilization. Some say yes, some say it's more like a biological renaissance. Some say it's post-civilization, not a hierarchy, but a harmony. But harmony requires effort. You still need to clean, just differently. Trash bins become art galleries. You don't throw out eggshells anymore. You set them gently in the offerings nook. One night you forget, and in the morning your slippers are filled with raisins. A reminder, not a punishment. You apologize. You leave a flower petal with a note. Thank you for your patience. The ants leave a pistachio shell shaped like a smiley face. You get better. Quirky moment. A school in Toronto introduces Ant Class, where students raise tiny colonies and co-create dioramas, poems, and music. One colony wins a national award for recreating the first moon landing in glitter and chocolate chips. The astronaut flag is a bit of foil, still standing. And then, the shared projects begin. Not just homes and gardens anymore, but goals. A group of artists in Nairobi teams up with ants to build a mural that grows. Made of fungus, moss, light-reflecting dust, and polished seed casings, the mural shifts shape based on viewer mood. Stand near it with grief in your chest, and it glows soft blues. Stand joyful? Amber bursts radiate from the center. Tourists weep. In Iceland, a geothermal plant integrates ant-designed tunnels to dissipate heat more efficiently. Energy costs drop by 17%. The ants ask only for old tea leaves in return. In Germany, a team of ants helps urban designers reduce noise pollution by redirecting breeze paths with tree placements and petal arrangements. One mayor gives them honorary citizenship. The ants respond with a public scent performance that smells like applause. Still, there are skeptics. One political party campaigns on a strict no bugs in beds platform. They lose, spectacularly, but not before their leader wakes up to find his campaign flyers rearranged into the shape of a question mark. They hold a press conference. The only comment? I just need to rethink a few things. Ants don't retaliate. They redirect. Disarm with gentleness. Your aunt comes to visit. She scoffs at the bug art in your living room. You say nothing. The next morning, she wakes up refreshed, smiling, holding a cup of tea she swears she never made. She goes home and starts planting violets. Things change slowly. Cities begin adjusting to ant logic. Stoplights stay green longer during certain migratory weeks. Yes, the ants have holidays now. Crosswalks emit tones only audible to children and ants. Public parks integrate scent nodes, low-hum bowls of natural oils, and sugars that promote communal calm. You enter one. A dog rolls over in bliss. A teenager stops frowning. An elderly couple starts humming. Even language evolves. Ant-scent glyphs begin to appear in emoji keyboards. A spiral equals peace. A double dot equals shared thought. A vertical wave equals sorrow offered without expectation. People start tattooing them, incorporating them into lullabies. Even legal documents include optional ant-scent summary sections. Laws are translated into vibe. Historians call this the age of soft technology tools not made of metal or code, but of meaning, patience, resonance. One child in New Zealand builds a backpack that lets ants compose music while he walks. They use vibrations and scent puffs. He plays it at his school talent show. No one laughs. His mom cries. At home, you notice your houseplant has grown into the shape of a spiral, not decorative, reflective, because everything the ants do now mirrors you. You're calmer, softer, more aware, not perfect, but trying. And they notice you leave them rice grains as thanks. They return tiny sand mandalas in your shoes. You ask a question one night, what do you want from us? You get a reply, scribbled across your fog mirror with pinpricks of pollen. To grow together. You wake up to a new sound. It isn't alarming, not mechanical, just curious. A soft rhythmic click, like two pieces of polished wood gently tapping. You follow it out to your front porch, where a group of ants is gathered around a tiny circle of stones. In the center, a leaf slowly rotates, balanced on a pin of beetle chitin. It's a clock, but not measuring time, measuring harmony. You've entered the age of the spiral. It's not a movement, not a religion, not even an idea in the traditional sense. It's a rhythm, a pattern, a slowly spreading way of seeing. And it all begins with spirals. Ant colonies start building spiral-shaped nests, spiral paths in your garden, spiral grain arrangements in your pantry. You find spiral patterns in your coffee foam, your toothpaste, even your dreams. It's subtle but persistent. A nudge, and it has an effect. Historians still debate whether the spiral age began with the whisper sculpture found in the Swiss Alps, an underground chamber where ants had arranged flower petals, stones, and scent into a spiral so perfectly tuned that it resonated at 528 Fahrenheit when breathed upon. Or maybe it was the global spiral bloom, when tulips, daffodils, and even weeds suddenly began growing in logarithmic curls subtle enough to be dismissed at first, until every botanist on Earth went silent for a week, staring at the math. But the message is clear. The spiral is the new language. And once you learn it, you can't unsee it. You find spirals in traffic flow, in your heartbeat, in the way your thoughts loop when you can't sleep. You realize ants aren't just building these shapes, they're revealing them. And with them, they reveal a truth. Everything cycles. The ants help you track these spirals. They build what look like clocks, but instead of hours, they mark moods, phases, shifts in your personal orbit. You come to understand your frustration rises every third Thursday, that your joy peaks with the full moon, that your grief flows in soft crescents every 90 days. And once you see the pattern, you can begin to dance with it, not control it, just understand. The ants create spiral gardens in abandoned moths, vines shaped like galaxies, paths that gently curve you toward the center, where you always find something, a memory, a feeling, a stone shaped like a comma. Cities redesign intersections into gentle loops. Schools structure, learning in spirals, repeating lessons with deeper layers each time. Therapy adopts spiral logic, revisiting pain, but softer, slower, wiser each time. Even fashion spirals, literally. Coils of color, wraparound fabrics. Shoes that trace curves in the dirt. You receive a letter, hand-delivered by ants, of course. It's written in scent glyphs and tiny threads. Your spiral is ripening. Please join us. No address, no instructions. But you understand. You walk to the old hilltop near your childhood park. The ants are there. So are a dozen others, strangers but familiar. Each stands on a stone. The ants begin to hum, not out loud, but through the ground. The stones vibrate. One by one, people begin to move. Not dancing, not swaying, just following the rhythm. You move too, spiraling outward, inward. Your feet trace curves in the soil. Your breath syncs with the others. Your heartbeat echoes the hum. You feel woven. For a moment, maybe a second, maybe a lifetime, you feel your thoughts link with everyone around you. You sense their spiral, their sadness, their goye. You feel the ants watching, not as overlords, not even as guides, but as witnesses. And in that moment, you understand the spiral is not a destination, it's a practice. Quirky detail. In Oslo, a dog learns to trace perfect spirals in the snow every morning, guided by the faint smell of ant trails. The internet dubs it snowglyph. The dog is unfazed. The ants give him a pine cone wrapped in ribbon. Spirals begin appearing in old places. Cave walls, cathedral windows, even traffic roundabouts. Historians reconsider ancient petroglyphs. Maybe the ants have been guiding us for longer than we thought. In the Canary Islands, someone finds a cave full of ants who've arranged rocks into a spiral timeline, each ring representing a century. The outer ring is unfinished. They're waiting for you. You visit. You step into the spiral. You feel seen, not judged, not praised, just acknowledged. Like a tree nodding to a passing breeze, you begin building spirals too. Out of coins, out of words, out of moments. You spiral your conversations looping back to the good parts. You spiral your memories letting the pain soften each time it returns. You spiral your breath. And the ants? They smile. You can't prove it, but you know, one night, you whisper, what comes after the spiral? They don't answer, not right away. But the next morning, your garden blooms in a shape you've never seen before. A spiral, yes, but unfolding into something new, something with wings. You blink. Not because you're tired, but because the air itself feels alive. There's a ripple, a shimmer, not quite visible, like heat over asphalt, or memory brushing against skin. You step outside and feel it. Something has shifted again. The ants have taken flight. No, not wings well. Some of them have wings, sure. But this is something else. This is conceptual flight. They've moved beyond ground, beyond structure, even beyond spirals. Now they're experimenting with dimensional thought, building ideas you can't quite see, but you feel them. Like waking from a dream you didn't know you were having. Welcome to the third layer, that's what they call it. Not heaven, not the after, just the third layer. You're not sure what happened to the first two. Maybe they were time and matter, or body and mind. Doesn't matter. The ants are gently inviting you to step into something deeper. They start by building light libraries. These aren't books. They're layered domes woven from beetle wings, water droplets, and shadow. You sit inside and the light that filters through tells you a story. Not in words, not even in pictures, but in feeling. One dome makes you weep. Another makes you laugh. One reminds you what it felt like to be 4 years old, hugging a tree for no reason. You swear you can smell your childhood dog. Historians call this empathic architecture. Structures designed not to serve you, but to feel with you. And with this new medium, ants begin teaching. Not through lectures, but through resonance. They guide you into experiences, dreams, scent trails, tiny dioramas made from bird bones and caramelized pollen that whisper things you didn't know you knew. You begin to grasp nonlinear knowledge, the kind that unfolds backward, spirals inward, then blooms. Quirky discovery. A university student in Athens studies ant structures and accidentally builds a desk that teaches him calculus while he sleeps. He fails all his other classes because he can't stop napping. You stop asking how and start asking what now. And the answer comes not in a message, but in a moment. You're walking past a vine-covered wall when your shadow splits. One piece walks with you. The other pauses, points, you turn. There in the dirt, ants have shaped a new glyph. It doesn't translate. It just feels like possibility. From that day forward, things open. Not physically, not dramatically, just subtly. You begin seeing layers. A coffee stain on a napkin reveals a Fibonacci spiral. A passing stranger hums a tune that resolves a memory knot in your mind. Streetlights flicker in code. You start hearing between the notes, seeing inside stillness. The ants have opened the third eye of the world. Governments stop fighting it. Some embrace it. A task force in Finland formally partners with ant colonies to develop emotional weather forecasting, predicting citywide moods based on scent data and neural residue. The maps are colorful, unsettlingly accurate. Meanwhile, ants begin redefining identity. They show you you're not just one person, you're many. Past you, dream you, potential you. They weave scent threads between all your versions, let you walk them like bridges. You meet 12-year-old you, you tell them they turned out okay. You meet 83-year-old you. They wink and say, nice job avoiding that second tattoo. You stop being afraid of your future. In Sao Paulo, ants build a self-room for public use stand inside, and a scent and sound chamber reveals a facet of yourself you'd forgotten. One man remembers he used to love painting. He leaves and buys paint. The ants don't force this. They offer. They never say become more. They just ask, are you ready to meet the rest of yourself? And slowly the world shifts. Education changes. Kids learn in spirals, in feelings, in scent-linked patterns. Math is taught through rhythm, history through memory gardens. One boy discovers the fall of Rome by walking barefoot through a sand spiral while listening to bees buzz in Latin meter. You don't get it, but he does. You begin seeing people differently too. Not as obstacles or allies, but as curves in your own spiral. You realize everyone is your mirror, just at a different angle. Conflict softens, conversations lengthen, apologies deepen. Even death changes. The ants begin building mourning towers, spires of scent in ash and song. When someone dies, you visit a tower. It tells you a story. It makes you cry. It gives you a leaf with a scent that smells like goodbye and forgiveness braided together. It hurts, but it helps. Ants begin offering memory merging, a gentle process where the essence of a loved one's feelings, patterns, and joys are shared back into the community. Not their thoughts, just their flavor, their spiral. You breathe it in and you carry them forward. Historians argue whether this is ant religion, ant psychology, or ant grace, but in truth, it's none of that. It's just connection. The ants are showing you the world as it always was, before the noise, before the clocks, before the need to be anything but part of it all. You sit in your garden one evening and ask, what happens if I go all the way into the spiral? The wind stirs, the ants gather, they begin building. Not outward, inward. You descend, not with your feet, not even in your mind. You descend in presence. The spiral the ants have made isn't a tunnel exactly. It's more like a gesture, a winding path through reality, memory, and emotion, layered like rose petals or sediment, or those dreams where you wake up, but only into another dream. The ants beckon. You follow. The walls around you are soft and warm moss? No, moss memory. It smells like your childhood backyard, but better. A perfected echo. You take a breath, and the air tastes like vanilla and the edge of possibility. This is the spiral core. Nobody talks about the spiral core because most people don't know it's there. Or they do, but only in the way you know you should drink more water. That kind of knowing the one that lives just outside your fingertips. And now, you're touching it. The ants guide you, but not with maps. They walk in patterns. They leave scent trails that pulse with memory. You feel them not in your nose, but in your chest, in your spine. Like being gently rewritten from the inside out. You pass chambers. In one, there's a sculpture made entirely of threads pulled from your dreams, bright, tangled, beautiful. In another, A quiet pool reflects not your face, but your kindnesses, all the little things you've done and forgotten. Holding a door, saying thank you, forgiving someone who never said sorry. You kneel beside it, and your reflection smiles. Then there's a doorway you almost don't see. It's shaped like silence. You step through, and everything goes still. This chamber has no ants, no scents, no spiral, just you. And in the center, a stone. On it, a glyph. B. That's it. Just be. You sit, you breathe, and something happens. Not loud, not bright. Just a gentle unfurling. As if parts of you you'd buried fears, regrets, questions begin to dazzle. Not disappear, just relax. You become wider. More room enters your being. Room for joy, for curiosity, for softness. You don't feel perfect. You feel complete. Quirky fact, later you'll learn every human who enters this chamber sees a slightly different glyph. One man saw rest. A teenager saw listen. A 93-year-old woman saw nothing and wept with relief. Historians argue whether this chamber is ant-made or simply revealed. Some say it's a psychic byproduct of the cognitive merge. Others think it's always been here inside us, and the ants just cleared the dust. Either way, when you stand again, something is different. Not louder, not better. Just aligned. The ants return quietly. One taps your shoe with a petal. Another curls up on your shoulder. You walk back through the spiral, which now feels more like a return than a descent. And above you, the surface world welcomes you back. But it has changed too. You emerge into a world subtly rearranged, not just physically, but energetically. There's a hum in the trees, a rhythm in the clouds. Children play in silence, not because they're afraid, but because the air feels sacred. You see others now, people who've gone through their own spirals. You recognize them immediately, not by look, by vibe, the way their eyes hold stillness, the way their laughter lands softly without hunger, the way they pause just for a moment before speaking, as if translating from something deeper. You join them, not as a follower, as a participant, because now the ants begin teaching us how to teach, not through systems, but through moments. You're asked to share what you felt in the chamber. You don't use words, you hum. You trace a spiral in sand. Someone weeps, someone hugs you. A butterfly lands on your shoulder. The ants just watch. And then the spiral begins again. But not underground this time. Upward, the ants begin spiraling into the sky. New structures emerge tall, delicate towers made of sap-stiffened silk, pollen, glass, and breath. Yes, somehow, breath. People climb them, not for views, for clarity. On top of one, a girl writes a poem she never knew she had inside her. On another, a man remembers the name of the star he dreamed about every year on his birthday. On another still, a child finds the courage to say, "I love you," for the first time. These are lighthouses of the third layer, not built to shine outward, but inward, reminding anyone who sees them that there is always another spiral to walk, another layer to feel, another version of yourself gently waiting to be discovered. The ants say nothing. They never needed to. They just hum softly as they build, as they dance, as they leave trails not of control, but of invitation. And you, having walked the spiral, having sat with yourself, having seen awe as a shape and memory as a scent, realize the simplest truth of all: you were never lost, just waiting to be found by something gentle,